Have you ever stopped to think about why some men seem cold, distant, almost emotionless, but then suddenly at certain moments, they come back, send messages, or even reappear as if nothing had happened? The truth is that men don't feel nostalgia randomly. There is a hidden, almost invisible reason that explains this behavior. It's not just a lack of love, and it's not just pride either. It's about deep, silent psychological triggers that, when awakened, make him feel a mixture of emptiness, desire, and even regret. Today you will discover something that most women have never realized. Men only miss you when you activate 3 hidden triggers. These triggers are in the male mind, hidden behind ego, instinct, and emotional defense. Many men don't even realize they are stuck in this. But when you understand how it works, you gain a huge advantage. You come to know why he comes back, and more than that, you learn not to fall into the role of someone who begs for attention. Before revealing what these triggers are, it is necessary to understand something essential. Men miss differently than women. For them, longing does not arise only from distance or beautiful memories. In the male universe, it usually appears along with an internal shock. It's when something he thought was under control suddenly slips away. It's when an unexpected feeling invades his mind, reminding him of what he has lost or what he can no longer have. And this impact always arises from specific stimuli, the so-called triggers. Now think about how many times you've asked yourself, does he miss me? Does he think about me? These doubts torment thousands of women because female logic projects longing in a different way. If I feel it, the other person should feel it too. But with men, it's not like that. They will only truly miss someone when something inside them is stirred. He may spend weeks distracted, busy with work, friends, or even other women. But on the day those triggers are activated, everything changes. He remembers you intensely again, as if a hole had opened up inside him. And that's what we're going to explore in this video. You'll understand how the male mind works, what makes a man want again something he already had or thought he no longer wanted. You will discover that there are 3 hidden triggers, 3 sensitive points that inevitably awaken longing in him. And when these triggers are activated, no matter how hard he tries to resist, his mind will bring you back to the center of his thoughts. But beware. This is not a cheap manipulation trick. These are not superficial games to make him chase you. What you'll learn here is much deeper. It's about understanding male emotional nature, recognizing how these triggers work, and noticing when they're being activated. This will give you clarity and power because instead of waiting for a message, instead of feeling insecure about what he thinks, you'll finally see the truth. If he misses you, it's because you've awakened one of these key points. Throughout the video, you will see that all of this is part of a psychological dynamic that mixes ego, desire, and emotional memory. And when these 3 forces intersect, the result is inevitable. He misses you. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may change the way you view relationships. It can free you from the anxiety of waiting for something that may never happen, and show you, once and for all, that male longing does not arise by chance. It is triggered by triggers that almost no one knows about, but that from today on, you will understand clearly. The first trigger that awakens longing in a man is the trigger of loss of control. This is undoubtedly one of the strongest because it touches directly on the male ego. A man may seem disconnected, cold, as if nothing affects him, but much of his identity is based on the idea of control. Control of the situation, of feelings, and of the history of the relationship. When he believes that you will always be available, that his attention is guaranteed, and that in a way you revolve around him, there is no room for longing. Because in his mind you are a certainty, and certainties do not awaken desire or longing. But the day you stop responding immediately, the day you change your attitude, the day he realizes he can't predict or control your reactions, at that moment his mind lights up an alert. He feels discomfort, an anxiety that soon turns into a memory. What is she doing? Does she no longer think about me? This trigger is activated when a woman breaks the pattern of what is predictable. If he was used to long, attentive messages and suddenly finds short, direct replies, it creates a void. It's not about ignoring or treating him badly. It's about taking a firm stance, showing that your life is not in his hands. This change, even if subtle, awakens in him a feeling of loss of control, and the male mind reacts to this with longing. It's curious to note that many men only recognize a woman's value when they can no longer dictate the pace of the relationship. While you chase after him, while you try to please him, He relaxes and even pulls away. But when you withdraw, occupy your time with your interests, show that you are independent, he begins to feel that he is no longer the center of your world. And that hurts. That pain is what generates longing. Think about how many times you've seen a man come back just when the woman had decided to move on. This return is almost never a coincidence. It happens because when he feels he has lost control, the man goes into shock. His mind rebels at the idea that you are no longer within reach. He begins to relive memories, remember moments, compare what he had with the current emptiness. This is the root of longing, the loss of certainty. And here's the most important detail. This trigger doesn't work when it's just an act. If you try to pretend to be detached but still show insecurity, he'll notice. Men may not have the same emotional sensitivity as women, but they can sense when an attitude isn't real. What really awakens longing is a genuine change in attitude, when you truly decide that your life no longer depends on him. The trigger of loss of control is also linked to an ancient male instinct, that of conquest. Men need a challenge. When the challenge is over and everything becomes too easy, interest naturally wanes. But when he realizes that he no longer has any guarantees, that instinct resurfaces. That's when longing appears. Therefore, it is essential to understand. Longing does not arise when you are always available. It arises when you show, through your actions, that you are not in his hands. It is at that moment that he begins to think about you constantly, almost obsessively. He misses not only your presence, but also the control he thought he had and is now gone. This is the first hidden trigger, a trigger that makes any man, no matter how proud he is, feel the weight of absence. Because for them, losing control is not only uncomfortable, it is unacceptable. And the natural reaction to this is to remember you, miss you, and desire again what is no longer within their reach. The second trigger that awakens longing in a man is the trigger of emotional exclusivity. This point is delicate because it directly affects the pride and need that most men feel to be unique. To understand this trigger, we need to remember that every human being likes to feel special, irreplaceable. But in the male world, this desire is even stronger. Men often build their self-esteem on the idea that they occupy an exclusive space in someone's life. As long as he believes that only he is capable of generating certain emotions in you, as long as he thinks he has a guaranteed place in your heart, he feels secure, almost untouchable. And that is precisely where his weakness lies, and the key to understanding longing. The day this man realizes that he is no longer the only one who can make you smile, the only one to whom you tell your stories, the only one who receives your special attention, on that day his mind goes into shock. He feels the blow, and that blow turns into longing. This trigger has nothing to do with provoking cheap jealousy or inventing games to manipulate. It's not about posting photos just to get attention or creating situations to make him feel insecure. It's something much deeper. It's when you, in a natural and genuine way, show that your life goes on, that there are other people around you, that you have friendships, activities, and moments of joy that don't depend on him. When he realizes that he has lost this emotional exclusivity, he misses you intensely. It's as if suddenly he realizes that he is no longer on that pedestal that he believed to be eternal. This triggers an internal mechanism in him that mixes fear of being replaced, wounded pride, and the desire to regain the space he has lost. Think about how many times a man only started to truly value you when he realized you were fine without him. This reaction is no coincidence. The male mind is trained to believe that, if I don't have her, no one will. When he sees that this is not true, when he realizes that you can smile, have fun, and be happy without depending on him, the shock is inevitable. He misses the position he used to occupy. He misses the special bond. He misses the feeling of exclusivity. This trigger can also be activated more discreetly. Sometimes all you have to do is shift the focus of your attention. If you used to tell him every detail of your routine and now you keep it to yourself or share it with other people, that's enough to mess with the male ego. He begins to wonder, who does she talk to now? Who has taken my place? These doubts remain in his mind, and every time he thinks about it, his longing increases. The most curious thing is that many men only recognize a woman's value when they realize they may lose her to the world. Not necessarily to another man, but to life. Seeing that you have your own sparkle, that your life does not revolve around him is like setting off an alarm. I am no longer exclusive. And that's when a void opens up inside him. This trigger teaches something important. Male longing is born when you make it clear. in a natural way, that your happiness does not depend on him, that he may have been a significant part of your life, but he was never the only pillar. That's when his mind, full of pride, begins to see you as someone irreplaceable. He misses not only you, but the feeling of being special, a feeling he believed he would never lose. And here's the final detail. When a man loses emotional exclusivity, he doesn't just miss you as a person, he misses the version of himself that existed by your side. And that's one of the most powerful forces to bring him back, because it touches his identity, his ego, and his deep desire to recover what he thinks he's lost. The third trigger that awakens longing in a man is the trigger of emotional memory. This is the deepest of all because it does not depend on direct actions, but rather on the silent power that certain memories carry. The human mind has a natural tendency to link emotions to people, places, smells, music, and moments. And no matter how hard a man tries to be rational, this is inevitable. When he has had experiences with you, his mind has recorded memories linked to feelings. It may have been coffee on a rainy afternoon, a conversation in the early hours of the morning, or unexpected laughter in an ordinary moment. These fragments of memories are stored silently, and even if he moves on, at some point, something will bring those memories back. It could be a song you used to listen to, a forgotten photo, a phrase, or even a place he passes by. At that moment, the emotional memory is triggered, and longing washes over him like a wave. The curious thing is that this longing does not appear immediately after the breakup. Often the man even feels relief at first, believing that he made the right decision, that moving on without you was better. But over time, the memories come back like echoes. And that's when he discovers that certain details have left a mark that he can't erase. This trigger is so powerful because it doesn't depend on direct contact. You don't need to be present, you don't need to send messages, you don't need to show up. Life itself puts signs in front of him that lead him to you. And the more he tries to resist, the stronger the feeling of longing becomes. This happens because emotional memory does not obey the ego. It comes from the unconscious, from a part of the mind that he cannot control. Many women think they need to make an effort to make a man remember them, but in fact, the wisest thing to do is to let memory do the work. When you go about your life naturally, without chasing after him, he will inevitably come across these triggers. One day, he hears a song and remembers your smile. Another day, he smells a perfume similar to yours, and it's as if you were by his side again. It is in this mixture of memory and absence that longing is born. This trigger also explains why some relationships are never completely forgotten. Even if he builds a new life, even if he has new experiences, there will always be something that takes him back to what he experienced with you. His mind creates involuntary comparisons, using you as a reference for current situations. That's why sometimes, even after years, he still feels an inexplicable longing. The most important thing is to understand that emotional memory cannot be invented. It only exists when there was true intensity. It doesn't matter if the relationship was long or short. What remains engraved is the strength of what was experienced. If you marked his life in some way, sooner or later his mind will bring those memories to the surface. And it is precisely this trigger that can turn the game around. Because when longing comes through memory, it is not just a reaction to the present, but a direct connection to the past. It's as if he's being pulled back to the moments when you meant joy, passion, security, or even challenge. This emotional return makes him rethink his choices and often wish to relive what he believed he had overcome. Therefore, the trigger of emotional memory is inevitable. No man can escape it. Sooner or later, he will be struck by a memory so strong that he will miss you in an overwhelming way. And at that moment, you need to be clear. The longing he feels does not appear because you pursued him, but because your presence was etched in his mind in a way that cannot be erased. Now that you know the 3 hidden triggers that awaken longing in men, it's time to put all the pieces together and see the big picture. The first trigger, loss of control, shows that a man only begins to miss you when he realizes that he is no longer in control of the situation, that you are not under his domain. The second trigger, emotional exclusivity, reveals that his pride is shaken when he discovers that he is no longer the center of your world, that your attention and joy do not belong only to him. And the third trigger, emotional memory, proves that even when he tries to move on, life finds a way to pull him back to the memories of what they experienced together, creating in him a longing that is almost impossible to control. These 3 triggers work like invisible gears in the male mind. The most curious thing is that, often, the man himself doesn't even realize it. He may think he came back because he thought better of it, or because he felt like it. But in reality, what happened is that one of these triggers was activated, and when that happens, he is overcome by a mixture of memories, insecurities, and desires that lead him straight to you. But there is an important truth. There is no point in knowing these triggers if you continue to live according to them. It's not about waiting for him to come running back, nor is it about using this knowledge as a weapon of manipulation. It's about understanding that longing only appears when you assume your position of strength. Men miss you when they realize that you are no longer always available, when they see that your life does not depend on them, and when they understand that the space they occupied is no longer guaranteed. And that's exactly where many women go wrong. In their rush to win him back, they end up nullifying themselves, giving in and handing over everything at once. But the more you give yourself away without balance, the more he pulls away, because there is no challenge, no impact, no loss of control. The secret is not in chasing after him, but in living authentically. When you take care of your life, value your self-esteem, create new goals, and put energy into yourself, these triggers activate on their own in him. A man only feels real longing when he realizes what he has lost. Not in a physical sense, but in an emotional sense. He misses your presence when he understands that he no longer owns it. And, somewhat contradictorily, the less you try to be remembered, the more he is struck by the memory. The more you show that your life is complete, the more he suffers from the absence of exclusivity. And the more firm you are in your independence, the more he feels the pain of losing control. So the lesson is simple and powerful. Don't live waiting for him to miss you, live building your own life. When you do that, the three triggers become inevitable. He may try to ignore it. He may occupy himself with other things. He may even look for ways to fill the void. But in the end, his mind will be drawn back to what you represent. Remember, longing is always a reflection of what has been lost. Only those who believed they had something guaranteed and suddenly discover they no longer have it truly feel longing. When you understand this, you stop being a hostage to waiting and become the protagonist of your own story. From now on, every time the question arises, does he miss me? You already have the answer. He will only miss you when one of these three triggers is activated. And when that happens, it won't be because you begged for attention, but because your strength, authenticity, and independence spoke louder. So keep this in mind. A man misses you when he loses control, when he loses exclusivity, and when memories bring back what only you have been able to mark in his life. This is the invisible power you carry, and which, from now on, you understand clearly.